Are you still struggling to make a decision regarding which agent you want to play? The first solution should always be to turn to the professionals. We looked at the agent pick rates from 4 of the top North American professional teams: Sentinels, 100 Thieves, Team SoloMid, and Envy. After poring over the data, we've taken the full field of agents and separated them into tiers based on their pro pick rates. And hopefully you can get a better sense of what agents you'll pick in the near future. Tier 1, the almost always picked at over 70%, starting with OMEN at a 97% pick rate. Across the 135 maps used in our sample, the shadowy controller OMEN was the clear #1 option, as he was picked in 130 of those maps. There were no discrepancies or anomalies when it came to team preference or map pick either. He's simply the most popular. But why? OMEN has a rare trio of abilities that provide him with disruption, mobility, and cover. He can disrupt with paranoia, an ability that's extra potent because it can be sent through walls. He has 2 different teleportation abilities that let him flank enemies and avoid dangerous angles. OMEN has become a go-to favorite for some of NA's most savvy veterans, like TSM's Hazed and 100 Thieves' Nitro. Watch Nitro perfectly sync up his paranoia with teammate Steel's push, blinding his enemy under heaven on ascent. This play was critical for his team to get back into the game and was aided by the lengthy smoke on A main.
One enemy.
One dead.
Right side.
Nice. Okay.
I needed that.
That was my last.
I had to use the bulldog.
Next is JETT, 83% pick rate. While mobility and lethality are her greatest strengths, JETT can also assist in controlling the map with her cloudburst smokes, although these have recently had their duration nerfed from 7 seconds to 4.5 seconds. While this may lower her pick rate in the near future, it's hard to imagine she tumbles out of the top tier. JETT stands out as North America's premier duelist, with 112 picks out of 135 maps. However, JETT does not have the same consistency as OMEN has across all maps. While a heavy favorite on Haven at 100%, Split also at 100%, and Icebox at 91.67%, she drops to less than 75% on Ascent and only 51.85 on Bind. Despite the anomalies, JETT's quickness and flashiness have allowed some of the younger talent in North America to elevate themselves into potential superstardom. TSM's Wardell and 100 Thieves' Dicey have both been absolutely dealing on JETT, using her dash and updraft to make aggressive highlights. Here, watch Dicey use JETT's ultimate knife set to turn the tide against TSM in a pivotal round. He uses updraft to take away an opponent's headshot, then dashes to unload his full knife storm at close range.
Gets the second one as well,
Dicey.
and he gets the reset.
No!
Dicey does it, oh my god!
Rounding out the tier is SOVA at a 73% pick rate. SOVA cracks the top tier as a consistent pick across all 4 teams, as each of them find use of the information gatherer initiator. But while all teams find mostly great use of him, there's one glaring exception: Split. In the 26 games played on Split by these teams, he has been picked 0 times. SOVA's arrows are the core of his utility. The recon arrows combined with SOVA's drone allow him to explore almost all angles on a site without putting SOVA himself in any immediate danger. SOVA has been perfect for 100 Thieves' Hiko. Hiko's legacy in Counter-Strike is defined by being a clutch player and having shock and recon darts that reveal enemy positions, force them out of hiding spots, and interrupt spike defusals, giving him an extra advantage in 1v1s. Watch him here use the shock dart to force the enemy player off the spike and right into his Vandal spray. Now on to tier 2, the consistent picks at 50 to 70%. First up, it's RAZE at a 53% pick rate. RAZE just edges out another duelist for the second highest pick rate for that role, and her overall rate has been consistent across all 4 teams. However, much like SOVA, there are maps where she is rarely utilized, such as Ascent at 25%, Icebox at 17%, and worst of all, Haven at just 6%. Although she is a very popular pick for Split at 93%, and especially Bind, where she has logged a 100% pick rate. RAZE's paint can grenades and boombot can add an element of precision to her destructive ways, allowing her to clear out corners and hiding spots before flying into a site. And in terms of pure damage output, her ultimate is still one of the most ferocious in the game, as just the sound cue will send enemies scurrying for cover. While he also enjoys SOVA, Sentinel's Sinatra can be absolutely deadly on RAZE. Being able to fly into sites with a satchel boost perfectly fits his ultra-aggressive style, and all the firepowered RAZE's other abilities make the deadly aimer even more dangerous. Watch him soar into a bomb site on a retake using satchels just last week at NSG's Winter Championship.
One enemy remaining.
my god.
Second in the tier, Phoenix at a 51% pick rate. The fiery agent just clears the 50% mark by a few points, notching the third highest rate for a duelist. But while RAZE had consistent pick rates among all 4 teams, there's some greater variance when it comes to Phoenix. He hovers around 50% for both Sentinels and Envy, but he drops to less than 23% on 100 Thieves. However, on Team SoloMid, his rate skyrockets to 87.5%. Phoenix's greatest strengths are his versatility and his sustainability. Phoenix can flash into sights, wall off portions of the map, and use hot hands either to chase enemies out of corners or heal oneself. His ultimate can be used for risk-free frags that favor those with a bold playstyle. TSM's drone might be the most dangerous Phoenix player in all of North America right now. When a lot of the attention was on Wardell heading into and around first strike, Drone emerged from the shadows and blinded the competition with his outstanding play on Phoenix. Just watch him use almost all of his abilities to reverse the momentum against 100 Thieves. He gets an early frag, cuts off the rotation with hot hands, ultimates into sight to get a frag, and then flashes in to finish them off.
Drone.
Next up, CYPHER at 50%. CYPHER's 50% overall pick rate doesn't reflect at all how often teams actually utilized him. Both TSM and 100 Thieves hardly touched him with an average of a 19% pick rate, but he's a top 3 agent for both Envy and Sentinels who picked him at an average 80% rate. CYPHER's use of cameras and traps are the perfect fit for the non-aggressive supporting player on a competitive Valorant squad. With his camera and ultimate abilities, he's an excellent eye in the sky for any in-game control freak as well. 2 of the most well-experienced veterans of Counter-Strike have found their stride supporting their team as CYPHER in Sentinel's Dapper and Envy's FNS. Their use of CYPHER's utility allows them to protect their aggressive teammates on site pushes, and they can both hold sites solo on the defensive end. CYPHER highlights using their abilities are hard to come by, but watch Dapper smartly put down his cage to cover this insane lurk against Luminosity.
Picked off. Now they can push through the spawn as well, but the thing is, they also leave Thief unchecked at sewers, so Thief could look back and get this kill. Meanwhile, though, we will still get the plant towards B, and that's it.
And receiving an honorable mention, it's KILLJOY at a 71% pick rate by 100 Thieves. Before we get to the bottom tier of agents picked, we have to talk about KILLJOY. Overall, her pick percentage stands at a meager 28%. But 100 Thieves have been making excellent use of her across several maps. How they used her was paramount to the success they found at their first strike victory. The utility-focused agent was entrusted to one of the smartest tactical players in FPS history, the CSGO veteran Steel. Steel was frequently left to defend bomb sites all on his own, but all of KILLJOY's combined utility allowed him to play safe, passive angles while slowing down the attacking team. This allowed his teammates to stack the other bomb sites and have plenty of time to rotate for a retake. Watch him recognize the strat the opposing team is using and place his turrets in the perfect spot. He only gets 1 kill, but it's instantly traded and his teammates are able to take the site.
Planning.
Nice.
Nice.
SOVA, Reyna, both
Wait, look at
you
this
guys
spot.
in there.
Clean.
And finally, tier 3. The rest of them at 0 to 25%. These agents aren't getting the full treatment, because at this time, they're not worth it. No disrespect to anyone who mains any of these agents, but right now in North America, these characters aren't consistently in any compositions. Breach, Reyna, and Skye are very niche picks that are only really picked about half the time a team plays on one specific map. Breach gets run some on Split at 54%, and once in a while on Ascent at 25%, but is a complete no-show on the rest. Reyna shows up on just under half of all Ascent games, and just under a quarter of all Haven matches. Skye is strangely popular only on Icebox at a 75% pick rate, but that's likely because her ability kit is useful in seeking out enemies, and that's needed on a map that a player is less familiar with. Down in the absolute pits at less than 5% are Brimstone, Sage, and Viper. Brimstone's abilities each have a better version of them on another agent, although the recent buff to his smoke duration could see a slight rise in his pick rates. Sage and Viper desperately need buffs in order for them to get some run in North America, despite Viper's niche popularity in Europe. In the 135 maps we looked at, she was literally picked just once. TSM picked her, Hayes played her, and the team got smacked by Renegades during a first strike qualifier. Stay tuned to Esports as we explore other regions and for when we return to this data to see what changes throughout the Valorant Champions Tour.